We interrupt our regularly scheduled nonsense to tell you about this episode's sponsor, Knack. Knack Bags are a unique combination of laptop bags and backpacks. They are expandable when you need the extra space, endlessly adaptable for any situation, and fully padded to protect your most precious electronics.
That's right, coupled with a stylish modern design, Knack Bags are the perfect companion for 9-to-5 commuting, jet-setting adventure, and everything in between. Shuffle off to knackbags.com to get yours today.
For a limited time only, use offer code BEYOND to check out to get a free TSA-approved bag lock with your purchase.
Yes, that's offer code BEYOND to get your lock with purchase of your Knack bag of choice.
This is Beyond the Bench with Nick Morgasen and Nick Fodera. A look at sports and pop culture from beyond common sense. The show that constantly goes off the rails and might never get back on. When you don't belong, you're a bench warmer. On this show, there's no riding the bench. This is Beyond the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. For Nick Fodera, I'm Nick Morgasen. I lost track of episodes. Was it like 32?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what time it is anymore. I know it's a linear construct, but I suck at math, so yeah.
I mean, I think we're on COVID time at this point.
We are on COVID time, but while we're on COVID time, just make sure to follow us on Twitter at ETB Network and at Beyond the Bench 1. Make sure you can follow us on Instagram at Beyond the Bench 1. And make sure you can follow us on Facebook at that very same address, facebook.com/Beyond the Bench 1.
And you know what? I left out one platform, and it's not up here, so I'll just say it. We are officially on TikTok.
Yes, the powers that be have dragged us kicking and screaming into the future, so now we don't feel that much like, we're old, so...
Well, you mean we're not the old geezer get off my lawn type of thing?
No, don't get me wrong. We're still that. It's just, we get to shake our fists at a larger, younger audience.
So you're not having the Blue Plate special just yet, right?
Well, why else am I here other than for the Blue Plate special?
Well, we do have a lot of...
I'm here for my health? No!
We do have a lot of Blue Plate special stories, if that's how you want to put it.
Yes, that is how you want to put it. But this episode and all its assorted nonsense is brought to you by Knack Bags. You make sure you go to knackbags.com to get your wonderful, amazing Knack bag that my co-host is now Vanna Whiting for us. It's beautiful, it's indestructible, and it's absolutely sleek and almost seductive. Okay, now I made it creepy.
Can you control yourself for once?
So what we have to do, what you can do is go to knackbags.com and go to your checkout counter. You can enter the offer code BEYOND, that's BEYOND, to get a free TSA-approved lock. It's a $15 value, and it's completely 100% gratis. We're offering stuff for free.
It's absolutely free. I know. I think that's dangerous, giving us the power to offer something for free.
I understand that, but, they shouldn't have given us, the power to do this kind of stuff anyway, but we did, so, because, what kind of life is it?
It's a one-back life.
Exactly.
So here we go. We have a lot to get into, including an unfortunate story that's leading the trends again. We'll get to that story. We're going to lead off with that, but we're going to go over the rest of the show quickly. MLB suspends Josh Donaldson over Jackie Robinson remarks. Now, usually we do that on our sports show, Empty the Bench, but this very quickly became public interest. So we'll get to that one as well. John Mulaney draws criticism for having Dave Chappelle as his opener, which surprises me considering how big a name he is. But that led to transphobic comments. We'll get to that one as well. Ice-T and his wife Coco are pushing their 6-year-old daughter in a stroller. Now, just keep that picture in your mind. We'll come back to it.
Great. Now it won't leave.
We'll get to podcast deals as well. I'm the nerd that follows all the money in the podcast space. And when I tell you how much money some of these podcasters are getting, you're going to be like, shit, where can we get that money?
Actually, it's more of a plots kind of thing. So yeah, you'll plots.
And then we finish off the show with two, I guess, funnier stories. A dad burns $3,500 concert tickets because he forgot to read the fine print. And the last New York City payphone is no longer.
Yes, so we are saying farewell to a time-honored institution, but you know what? We've got another time-honored institution to take up its time, and that's this podcast. So let's get underway.
All right, so here we go. And unfortunately, I hate to lead off with these stories, and Nick and I take no pleasure in doing these stories.
We really don't.
So there was a Texas school shooting and Uvalde, Texas, at the Robb Elementary School. And what day did this officially take place?
This took place on Tuesday.
Okay, so this news comes down. I think it was an 18-year-old male gunman who somehow, well, I shouldn't say somehow, because most schools have public open entrances, which is confusing to me. But
he had two AR-15 style rifles that he had just recently bought for his 18th birthday, and he had shot his grandmother. He shot and wounded his grandmother after an argument. Then stole her truck and drove to the school, ditched it, and then barricaded himself in the into the school itself and killed 19 students and 2 teachers. Most of the victims are 2nd to 4th graders, so that makes this absolutely horrifying. And I know we're about 10 years out from Sandy Hook, and again, this happens again. So
it's crazy. This is crazy. The amount of times this has happened.
It's not crazy. The word you're looking for is infuriating.
Well, infuriating, but I'm just tired of this. Like, and I'm going to get into in a minute or so, like why I feel very sentimental about this. But at the same time, we have HR 8, which is the document that's supposed to do national background checks
and the red flag laws.
And it's sitting in the Senate, at least from what I understand.
It has been sitting in the Senate collecting dust for about 2 years. And in the wake of this happening again, literally less than about 10 days after another mass shooting where 10 people, mostly
about Buffalo?
In Buffalo, were shot at a supermarket by a white supremacist terrorist. And we come to this point again. It seems, I really hate to say this, but this seems like a cycle where this happens, people die, people are outraged, they're heartbroken, and yet nothing happens. Nothing happens to change it. And I've always said, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
And you know what? There's something I want to bring up as well, because people keep saying, "Oh, our condolences." How many times can we give condolences if you're just going to repeat the same process over and over and over again?
In fact, I'll go one further. Condolences and thoughts and prayers mean absolute dick. 100%
they don't mean anything.
They mean nothing. And what is it that the Bible says? Prayer without action itself is nothing. And again, I hate that I have to keep hammering this point home, but why was this kid, this 18-year-old, able to buy two? Why was anybody able to buy those kinds of weapons? Because every time in a mass shooting scenario like this, there's one common denominator. The one type of weapon that they all use, the AR-15 style rifle. Now, missed me with the whole hunting bullshit and Second Amendment bullshit, because again, that is a weapon of war, not for hunting.
I mean, I get it, but I think I get why people are upset and emotional. Like, this story made national rounds, and I forgot to put it in here. We're going to do it on Saturday. But Steve Kerr, the Golden State Warriors coach, and I don't blame him. Usually, and you know me well, Nick, I don't like when public figures talk politics at a press conference because it leads to a lot of controversy. In this case, I get it. I totally get it. Because these are kids.
These are kids, and again, once we decided as collectively, as a nation, that killing kids was a-okay, that fight was already lost. Because honestly, how many times do we have to keep going through the same thing before an anvil falls on a collective fucking fucking asses and finally gets something done.
Actually, one of our new interns, I forgot to mention that as well. We have new interns that we like, and we're starting to get them in the mix with all our shows. Actually,
welcome them to the Empty the Bench podcast network family.
Yeah, and one of them just dropped a note to us saying that I heard it also took place in the same town that Matthew McConaughey is from. There was a quote from the Houston Public Media post, quote, "Action must be taken so that no parent has to experience what the parents in Uvalde and the others before have endured."
And absolutely, I agree. But you know what? At a certain point, excuse my cynicism, but the fact that this happened, and the fact that the school district and the town of Uvalde itself is 73% Latino, which means that these mostly white, mostly over 70 and 80-year-old politicians aren't going to lift a finger to do anything to help these people.
Yeah, but wait a minute. It's not just this issue. It's any issue in the Senate.
It's really any issue, but again, my cynicism is again, you're already starting to see the wheels spin a bit that they really don't care. And it's sickening. It really is.
No, you know what's frustrating, and I started to tell you this like as we were discussing. I have a 3-year-old nephew and a 1-year-old niece. You have what, a 1-year-old?
I have a 9-month-old niece and a 2.5, about to be 3 godson.
Like, this scares me that you can't walk into a school without worrying if it's going to get shut up,
and to have to think about that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but to have to think about that when you bring them to school, they might not come back.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Like, I was at dinner with my parents and my nephew and niece and my brother and sister-in-law, and I said, when I was sitting at the table, I literally said, I was scared, like thinking about this, like when it happened, like because
and I don't want to be melodramatic, and I don't want to be flippant about these things, but the game, the calculus that you do in your head changes when you have people of that age in your family that you care about.
And like, it's like you just said, do I have to worry now that when my niece and nephew go to school that something bad's going to happen?
Is it some asshole with a gun he shouldn't have is going to shoot up the school?
And you know what? And this might get tomatoes thrown at me, but I don't care. That people are saying, well, mental health. Well, you still had to make the choice to shoot the gun.
Exactly. But you know what? Again, I keep saying, there's no reason why any civilian should have that weapon. There's no reason at all. And first of all, it's really a bipartisan failure because the fact that we have both Republicans and Democrats who just refuse to lift a finger to actually create any kind of meaningful gun reform, that 80% of the country, 80%, you can't get 80% of the country to agree on the grass being green. 80% of the country wants these common sense law reforms, but yet you have politicians from both sides of the aisle. Not everybody. Well, most Republicans, but they sit there with their thumbs jammed firmly up their asses and just waiting. What is that thing I'm sitting on?
I was going to say, and I don't want to dwell on this story forever, but my point is, this is not a Republican, a Democrat, a neutral issue. It's a country issue. It's a issue
of our survival.
Forget the politics.
What country do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a country where this happens regularly? Because we are the only country in the world where this happens with such regularity. Schools are not supposed to be war zones. Supermarkets are not supposed to be war zones.
Churches.
Movie theaters are not supposed to be war zones.
Churches,
synagogues,
and by the
way,
and let's be upfront. We're not talking about religion. We're not talking about politics. We're just pointing out the places that this stuff happens in, unfortunately, in that regard. So forget the politics. Screw the politics. I could care less. It has to do with protecting people as a whole. That's really what it is.
It does. But you know what? Life is so cheap to so many people, and it's when you really don't care, when you have neither heart, a soul, nor a functioning brain. It's amazing the evil that you will let slide.
I mean, I heard Eric Adams, for most people, if you're listening in New York, Mayor Eric Adams was talking about locking the doors of the schools and that you would actually have to sign in from the outside and be admitted in. Now, I think that would obviously make it safer because if something were to happen, God forbid, I guess you can get to it quicker. But
Of course, that's a band-aid on an impaling wound, but
right.
again, baby steps, because apparently baby steps are the only steps forward we are capable of taking in this goddamn country.
All right. I'm going to let you calm down off of that
Yeah.
story. Let's move on. Let's talk some sports a little bit. I know we don't do that very often here, but MLB suspends Josh Donaldson over Jackie Robinson remark. Now, you and I, when we get to talk about this on Empty the Bench on Saturday, I don't know if we're on the same page. I think we're close to the same page. The suspension was ridiculous.
You might hate me for this, but I probably would have suspended him for a couple games more than
Why?
that. Look, it's not that. Okay. All right. I knew I was going to have to explain myself at some point. So, first of all, context is necessary. What was it that Josh Donaldson said to Tim Anderson? So Tim Anderson and Josh Donaldson have had a bit of a beef going for the past couple of years.
Even before Yankees White Sox.
And he got on base, I think, the last time they were at Yankee Stadium. It was an afternoon game. And he said to Tim Anderson, "Hey, Jackie."
Third base. Yeah.
He got onto third base and he said, "Hey, Jackie." Apparently, this was in reference to
Jackie Robinson.
Jackie Robinson, and an interview that he gave in 2019 where Tim Anderson had referred to himself as the new Jackie Robinson, the Jackie Robinson of fun. I'm paraphrasing here, but
that was probably
basically the gist of it.
That was probably the worst thing he could say, by the way.
Yes, there are some things, look, whether it was racist or not, and it was a dick thing to do.
Oh,
it really was a dick
thing. I'm not arguing that.
Thing to do. And Donaldson, look, Josh Donaldson is many things, and a jerk is also one of them.
Well, we're on the same page on that one. What I don't like is that we all know Donaldson is a jerk. We know that. We know that he's done things to people. We know that. We know he's yanked people's chains. We know that. But at the same time, if you go to Sports Illustrated in 2019 and you give an interview with a quote that says, "I'm today's Jackie Robinson," like that's gonna stay with you forever.
But again, it's not up to us. Look, we're two pasty white guys hosting a podcast. It's not for us to say what a black guy can call himself or not. And to be honest with you, Donaldson really should have been the one to talk to Tim Anderson, to apologize to him directly.
Yeah, and wait a minute.
Honestly, I really don't think he meant it.
And apparently,
he meant it when he said he was sorry.
And apparently, Donaldson apologized to to Robinson's family.
Robinson's family that came out yesterday.
Yeah, and a couple days ago from when this is being made. But yeah, which I don't know what that has to do with the story, to be quite honest. But
I guess he thought he was offending Jackie's family, and that really is again, but. I really don't like the fact that we as Yankee fans have to deal with this shit, because again, this is the kind of stuff that we used to get on Red Sox fans for.
Philly fans.
It just goes to show how spoiled we are. But to be honest with you, I don't think that. Again, Tim Anderson had a right to be pissed off. That's all I'm saying.
Right, and you know what? The suspension was ridiculous. Rob Manfred doesn't know how to run the sport. Yes, this is going to become a partial Rob Manfred.
This is going to become the return of good old Rob Manfred. But again, I probably would have suspended him for maybe about 4 or 5 games.
Oh, why?
Just to make sure the message sunk in.
Because
I really don't think that Donaldson understood that what he said was wrong.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. And I'm going to point this out to everybody, Mr. Journalist sitting next to me, who has a master's in journalism. When something is printed in an article, What does that mean?
So when something is printed in an article, that means you said it.
So
went on the record and you said it.
So that means it follows you for what?
Yes, but it seems to me like but you're missing the point here.
But it follows you for life, Nick.
He said it. Again, it's not necessarily the word itself in a vacuum. Context and intent matters. What was the context and what was the intent? The intent was to push his fucking buttons.
No, but my point is that Tim Anderson brought it on himself almost 3 years ago now. I'm not saying what Donaldson did was wrong.
Again, but hyperbolic statements shouldn't be used as a bludgeon.
No. Again,
it's almost like going up to every Asian guy and saying, "Hey, look, that's Jet Li." I mean, you can't do that.
First of all, that's a little different because that's not.
But it's painting. But it's painting with a broad brush. It's like, oh yeah, every black baseball player is Jackie Robinson.
But I'm saying when you're a professional baseball player and you're comparing yourself to Jackie Robinson, that's putting a message out there. You know that.
Again, it was hyperbolic statements. Reggie Jackson did the same goddamn thing in 1977 when he joined the Yankees.
Okay, but back then it was different times.
Again, that's not any different from Reggie saying that he was the straw that stirred the drink.
I don't know if I agree with you on that one, but
I guess we're just gonna have to agree to disagree.
But this is just Rob Manfred just adding more fuel to the fire, though, by inserting himself in the middle of it.
Well, he always does that.
I mean, again, it's like a reference I made on the last show of Empty the Bench. He's
the Jehovah's Witness of Major League Baseball. He shows up when you don't want him to.
It's like I said on that episode, taking a dump on the field and having someone clean up after him.
I mean, I wouldn't have put it in those terms exactly, but okay.
Well, what else does he do? He doesn't do anything. Him and Roger Goodell are having a contest to see who's the worst commissioner in sports.
I still think that it's Goodell by just a little bit.
I mean, why don't we just throw Gary Bettman in there? We could have a party.
Oh, you don't have to tell me to hate Gary Bettman. I've been hating Gary Bettman since I've been watching hockey.
Excuse me. All right.
It's practically a rite of passage for every God-fearing, self-respecting NHL fan to hate Gary Bettman.
All right.
When you pick a team to root for, you are handed a team jersey and a sign that says "Fuck Gary Bettman."
Wow. All right. Let's move on to from sports to comedy. Excuse me. John Mulaney, who I actually had the chance to see. Very funny guy. A lot of controversy with him, but very funny guy. He draws criticism for having Dave Chappelle open for his show. Now, apparently there was a bunch of transphobic jokes.
Yes, there was. And of course there weren't any cell phones in the audience because God knows poor Davey is really afraid of the backlash. And to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I've said this before, but I'm really, really, really sick of Dave Chappelle on that one joke. It's like, what did transgender people ever do to you? It's like you're going after them with an intensity that suggests hatred. A joke is a joke, but that's not a fucking joke.
You need to understand,
though. We have that one joke, which is transgender women are actually men.
No, I get that, but at the same time, not that I would condemn him for all the jokes that he made, but at the same time, remember, Dave Chappelle is a comedian of all comedians, where he doesn't care what is being said or done.
Does not care, which is amazing.
Scary
that he's declared himself the comedy martyr, where he's basically just saying, he's playing the victim. It's like, dude, your net worth is in the millions. When your net worth is in the millions, you really don't have to care what people say about you. But you know what? He's taking the slightest bit of criticism as an assault on his free speech. And you know what that is? That's not an assault on free speech. I'll tell you what it is. It's other people. It's free speech in microcosm. It's free speech doing what it's supposed to do. Because he's got the freedom to tell those jokes. And we've got the freedom to tell him to shut the fuck up. It's not funny.
Well, I think we can all refer to a certain person when they tell us not to be laissez-faire, not to care as much.
RELAX.
Shut up, you two.
I mean, we can all,
And look, I don't know what you thought about John Mulaney, but it's obvious that because he was the internet's boyfriend for a while, and it's
he
like
was.
it's
mean,
like who
He was
apparently
funny.
there was a disconnect. It's like who you thought he was in your head and who he actually is, because everybody was so shocked that he left his wife and then impregnated and then and then got engaged to Olivia Munn. It's like okay, it's like look. Please don't think of these people as heroes. Really, they're not. They've already got a fair bit of emotional damage. They're doing stand-up, for God's sake. You wouldn't be doing stand-up if you weren't just a little bit fucked up in the head.
Well, he had an alcohol and drug problem, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
right?
yes, he did. But again, please stop thinking of these people as. Please stop worshiping them as gods.
I mean, comedians
Please.
are comedians. They do it because they either had a psychological or a physical issue growing up, or a family issue, or some sort. Not that I'm begrudging them in any way, but just that's where their comedy started and came from. Unfortunately,
and it's an insular community where an attack on Dave Chappelle, attack on one of them is an attack on all, because you saw people giving Dave Chappelle shit, and all the comedians just closed ranks around him. They were trying to protect him. It's like he is worth 10 times what all of you put together are. You couldn't have less in common with him. And again, I'm a fan of Dave, or at least I used to be, because he was smart. He was smart. Younger Dave Chappelle was smarter than this.
I mean,
he left the Chappelle
wait a minute.
show because he was afraid of it, because he didn't like the fact that white people were taking his comedy the wrong way and using it in racist ways.
I mean, I agree with you, but at the same time, when comedians have FU money, when you're making $20 million per Netflix special, he doesn't care what's going on.
And it's like, ladies and gentlemen, please don't act like it's like Dave. Please don't act like the transgender people somehow had it coming. It's like, seriously, Jesus. I mean, trans people are dying and having their rights taken away, and well, some of them were mean to me on Twitter. It's like, grow a thicker skin, Dave, for Christ's sake.
Didn't he talk about the Disney issue also, if I'm not mistaken?
Which one?
The LGBTQ issues. Didn't he talk about that?
I think. You know what? It's just the man got old and he just got progressively crankier and crankier and crankier.
Can he just go away? I mean, he made his millions of dollars, whatever.
I mean, but God, for God's sake, I really wish that was the case. Because you know what? The best comedians can evolve. George Carlin did it. Eddie Murphy, to a certain extent, did it.
Hey.
Richard Pryor could do it.
Coming to America 2. He was able to come back into Coming to America 2.
Yeah, and the best comedians evolve with their material, because not everything is seen as funny. What is funny, quote unquote, is a continuum in that it changes over time.
I'll give you another example, okay, of another person who comedian, and she put her foot in the mud, if you know where I'm going, because her show is in the finale. Ellen.
Ellen, yeah.
Ellen.
I don't know if that's exactly it.
Excuse me? She put her foot in the mud because apparently her staff was being abusive.
Yeah, but that's more of a behind the scenes thing rather than, her just heckling people from the.
It's not behind the scenes. She's involved.
No, I mean with her staff, not how she was treating her audience.
No, but I'm just saying these comedians are so effed up in the head that they can't.
Yeah, it's like, seriously, your idea, I mean, you're supposed to make people laugh, and if people aren't laughing and they're just pissed off, you're doing something wrong.
It also doesn't help that for someone like Ellen, who had the reputation of, I'm the helpful person that donates and gives money to everybody, and then it comes out that you're an angry,
actually a tyrannical monster.
That you're an angry, jealous, I don't know, egotistical maniac. So,
remind me never to do stand up, because I really am. Because if that ever happens to me, I mean, God knows what that would end up being.
I'd be afraid to see what stand up comes out of your mouth. All
right. Nah, you just can't shut me up anyway. But you got me on this forum. Why do you need me on a stage? So, moving on.
All right. Now, the weird story that made you turn your head. Ice-T and wife Coco pushing their 6-year-old daughter in a stroller. Now,
Far be it from me to tell people how to parent, because I don't have kids of my own. But ladies and gentlemen, there's a certain age where you really need to stop treating kids as if they're babies. Because if there's a 6-year-old in a stroller, the thought is not, oh, how cute that is. It's what the fuck is wrong with that?
first of all, how do they fit in the
Am I
stroller?
seeing?
How do they fit in the stroller? Because most kids are grown almost.
Yeah, it's like when you those horror stories you hear about women breastfeeding their 2-year-olds. It's like, Jesus Christ.
What was that that Adam Sandler movie, the one with the pool where the kid was like 5 years old and he was still breastfeeding the kid in the movie?
Grown-ups?
Was that
it?
Grown Ups? I think it was Grown Ups. Yeah.
I never saw it. So
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
One of the Kevin why am I forgetting his name all of a sudden?
Kevin James.
Kevin James. The wife was still breastfeeding the kid at like 5 years old in that movie. And at one point, Kevin James's character comes up and says, "All right, just drink out of the damn carton already."
Jesus Christ. And did Ice-T have any kind of explanation for this?
I mean,
Because there has to be an explanation for this somewhere.
and the worst part is Coco Austin. I think she's a model. I think they were divorced at one point. I think also.
And then they got back together.
And then they got back together. It's like a bad Hollywood romance all over again.
I mean, if you could take that picture and just, darken it a little bit, that's actually the cover for the next Body Count album. So,
yeah. It says, and the worst part is they put this up on social media, and that's why it got backlash. So it says a stroll through,
and they're surprised when people gave them shit. It's like, again, it's like going into a packed movie theater.
Wait a minute.
What?
Wait a minute. She's still breastfeeding her child.
Oh, Christ.
Listen to this. Coco also revealed last summer that she still nurses her daughter and will only stop breastfeeding once Chanel, their daughter, says so. Excuse me? Wait, really?
I give up.
No.
I give up. It's like certain people should not... Look, certain people maybe should not be parenting like that.
You know what? I think Ice-T and Coco deserve this.
What we need is a drop that just goes, ew.
I wish I had
that. Is.
Oh wait, I have something better.
You suck.
That's exactly the problem. That she sucks and she shouldn't.
Oh Jesus! I don't know.
Precisely the problem, ladies and gentlemen.
This is why I hate celebrity couples. I feel like sometimes they do this just for the attention.
To get a reaction.
Like, I guarantee you, behind closed doors, this is not happening at all. Like, I call this the Kim Kardashian effect, where everything that on social media, you just do it. You hope to get attention, and then once it's over, because again, when she has to show off her ass 25 million times a day, or she has to show off the bikini that doesn't fit on her, that's so that all the perverted guys go on social media and they say, "Oh my God, like." Well, what? I used to do that in college radio. Like, people would call up when I used to do a 3-hour show once a week, and people would say, "I like the Kardashians," and I'm like, "Okay, so that means you're going to sit on the couch, make $40 million a year, and do nothing for it."
That did not go where I thought that was going to.
What? Were you expecting me to say do a sex tape and do anything it takes to make money?
No, but you're close. But no, it's to me, it's like, you're going into a movie theater during a packed movie theater on Friday night and loudly announcing to the crowd after you've gone to the front of the stage, not loudly announcing, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have shit myself." Why are you surprised when people are laughing at you? It's like you're doing this to yourself.
I don't know. This story just was bizarre, and I was like 6-year-old in the stroller. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
All right.
Moving on, though.
All right, let's talk about something a little more logical now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about podcast deals. So this is more my nerdiness when it comes to radio and broadcasting. And this is why I said to the guys when we were first developing this podcast network back in September of last year, I think.
Yeah, September. Even before that, 5 years ago when we were
that was
the Unspoken Podcast days.
That was one.
How long we've been doing this, folks?
Right, but that was one podcast that wasn't even part of the network. This is a whole new thing.
When we had decided to branch out.
Right, and we changed to Empty the Bench, and that's how this whole network came to be. But holy shit, there's a lot of money in podcasts, and it's crazy. So, do you know Mark Maron?
Yeah, I know Mark Maron.
You know his...
I actually listened to WTF.
All right, so he just inked a new 3-year deal with a company called Acast.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it something like 50, 60 million?
I'm looking now because I didn't see a number. I think originally, actually, he was with Stitcher, which was owned by SiriusXM. So this is bizarre. I mean, there's a lot of money changing hands in the podcast space, and that's why we're working really hard to develop this space and this network, because there is money to be had in this space.
We would like to be the ones that could get a $50 to $60 million deal.
Now, baby steps.
I know, baby steps, but he, whatever the amount, it was still a pretty penny. I mean, he's making more doing this than he ever did when he had a show on IFC and when he was doing stand-up.
That's the sick part. Podcasting is making so much money right now.
Because everybody and their mom has one.
No. Actually, that would be against the logic of making money. If you have a name and you have a following, whether that's Twitter, Facebook...
All you need is a name, a reputation, and a microphone.
Right. I mean, last time I checked, I think there are 90 to 100 million downloads for podcasts every year. Every year. And I think they said there's a couple 100,000 podcasts now across all platforms. It's a crazy number. And I'm looking at the WTF deal. It says, as part of the deal, beginning on July 1st, WTF will also offer bonus content, merchandise, and live event offerings via Acast Plus. Now, you know what I'm going to say, because there's a plus next to that.
Because there's always a plus, and the plus implies that you will be paying more.
Now, the podcast is free still, but if you want bonus content,
of course, there are tiers to this.
Right? Can't they just make podcasting easy, where you just upload it and say, "Here you go"?
Where's the money in that?
Well, you can monetize.
Where's the money in that? If I'm paying the money, I should be able to pay $20 flat to have to watch Mark Maron take a shit in front of the camera. Seriously, I'm getting my money's worth.
You know what's weird though? Like originally when SiriusXM came along and it took away the share of, and now I'm going to sound old. You and I know this. A lot of people don't. That when Sirius came along, it took away from free public. Well,
yeah, it did.
Not public radio, but free radio, and
it was a Wild West before they took over.
Most people that know Howard Stern was in free radio. He was getting 20 million listens a week via syndication on free radio, and then he went off to Sirius and became bigger because everyone was willing to pay for it.
That was national news when that happened.
Well, he forced a merger between Sirius and XM because it wasn't Sirius XM when it started.
Because it was a shit ton of money that they couldn't afford on their own. So,
well, one was in debt over the other. One
was in debt over the other, and Sirius had the idea to, hey, if you can't beat them, join them. Right.
So this space is huge. Radio is going this direction, and podcasting is going this direction. It's just the way.
But
you have to remember something else also. In the podcasting space, there's no commercials except for ads when you put them in, whether it's
ad breaks every 15 minutes or so.
No, not in radio. You would do them in the front and the back usually.
It depends on not in radio. I mean, like in podcasts, certain podcasts do ad breaks like every 15 minutes or half hour. Well, depending on the podcast.
It depends. You have pre-roll and you have post-roll. And then sometimes you do one right down the middle at the halfway point. Usually, But that's not a lot of commercials. In radio, which is my neck of the woods where I worked for 4 years in New York radio, forget it. Some breaks were 5 minutes long.
Because I guess they had to figure out a way to make it profitable, and that was the only way they could do it.
Okay, but let me ask you.
Were they still operating at a loss?
Oh yeah.
I know you didn't have access to their financials, but
no, it's obvious as day they were operating at losses. But let me ask you a question: if you knew that the break was 5 minutes, what are you doing on the radio dial?
You're changing. You're listening to something else. And there's only so much that they can tolerate before they get disinterested and change the channel.
There's only so many times I can listen to Balance of Nature or
Balance of Nature or fucking Rudy plugging his new book or
Sex Pills or any of those.
Oh God.
Forget it. When I used to work overnight radio and I would run the syndication that they would put on locally, everything was about condoms and sex pills and the commercials, because that's what the audience was at night. It was older people or that they were selling to the audience.
So you're weirdos and you're 60 and above people who can't insomniacs.
And how many I think I listened to Cars for Kids commercials 3 times an hour too, which I couldn't stand.
That ad is the bane of my existence. I had to listen to 1010 Wins on the way to work the other day, yesterday as a matter of fact. And I counted on I took the liberty of counting how many times I heard that goddamn jingle.
Wow. How many times?
I lost fingers. I don't have enough fingers to tell you how many times I heard it.
But long story short, just podcasting is a more flexible space. There's less commercials. The commercials are structured, first of all, so you know where they're going to be. How much
did Conan get?
Conan?
Yeah, Conan.
Oh, Conan O'Brien.
I don't know why I said Conan, but yeah, Conan.
Yeah, Conan got a 5-year, $150 million deal. He was already with Stitcher, which was bought by Sirius. They now moved him up onto the Sirius platform side. And the difference is they gave him a 5-year, $150 million deal, and they're giving him his own channel.
Which is great because, I've always felt like, Conan O'Brien was a lot funnier than a lot of the late night hosts that he was competing with, because TBS really did give him the shaft.
Go ask a certain asshole that used to be in late night TV that took his spot, whether he should have been in that spot.
Which asshole? The asshole he replaced or the asshole that replaced him?
No, the asshole that took his show back.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just
a certain guy who did terrible impressions. It's funny though that the amount of money that's in this space, and according to some stats, WTF with Mark Maron brings in 55 million listeners per year. 55 million.
Which is probably. Yeah, compared to Joe Rogan, it's like that's how much?
Well, Joe Rogan's pulling in a lot more than that.
Yeah, but still, 55 million a year is nothing to sneeze at.
Joe Rogan is probably pulling in 100 to 200 million listeners a year.
And a lot of dumb shits out in the world.
And you have to remember, some of those episodes are 3 to 4 hours long.
Yes, because they can't get that dumb-faced motherfucker to actually shut up.
I mean,
I don't like Joe Rogan that much. Can you tell?
I don't either. But the only reason I like Joe Rogan was for Fear Factor. That was it.
Oh God!
But long story short,
and now he's telling you to mainline horse paste if you have COVID. Oh my God! How this society has devolved. It is eating itself, ladies and gentlemen.
So Conan sold his production company to Sirius. Also, I just realized. So on top of the podcast, and apparently he did a few with some big names. I'm trying to look down the list, but if we can grow and even get 10% of that deal, I'd be happy.
I'd be happy with 5
or 5%, whatever.
Just in case any of the advertisers are listening, we're available.
Hey, Knack.
And I promise you, I won't say anything offensive.
Bullshit. You say things constantly that are offensive.
What? Who doesn't like shit jokes?
Well, I'm not going to take a dump on your parade.
All right. Moving on.
All right. Let's talk about some funny stories to finish this up. Let's talk about this one. Dad burns $3,500 Olivia Rodrigo tickets after not reading the fine print.
Now, what did the fine print say, pray tell?
Well, I wasn't paying attention, so I didn't have the story up. That's my fault there. There we go. So it has to do with the vaccine requirement. Your favorite topic, Nick.
My favorite.
So the Post said that the dad burns $3,500 Olivia Rodrigo tickets after not reading the fine print about vaccine requirement appeared first on the Consequence. More than 2 years into the COVID-19 pandemic, mandates are more inconsistent than ever. With that in mind, one would logically check the vaccine requirement before spending thousands to take their daughter to see Olivia Rodrigo.
Which, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, does that dumb shit realize that he actually had to spend? He spent the money, and it's not sticking to anybody else but him.
I mean, the only answer I have for this is
no. You know what that deserves?
what?
The Curb Your Enthusiasm theme, because that is just dumb shittering.
No, I'll give you another one instead if my board will move here. I'll give you this one.
Yes, that's right. Beyond the Bench has taken a trip to the circus of dumb fathers who don't realize that they spent the money anyway, and the only person they're owning is themselves. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? You know how this could have been avoided?
What?
If you just gotten the shot like a big boy.
Well, just be careful with that. I know what you mean. Obviously, I would tell you.
Again, I've said it how many times on this show? I've said it how many times on this show and on Empty the Bench? How many times have I said it in person? Get the vaccine.
Well, I agree with
the vaccine.
You know what's interesting? They wrote also, it says not even a negative COVID test would work, they said.
Which, again, if you weren't such a fucking baby, maybe man up a little bit. Maybe you would have been able to do a good thing for your daughter. But no, you decided that your politics and making a scene was actually better. But you know what?
We have
the
another
only person who loses is you. I feel bad for your daughter.
We have another issue. We have another issue though. $3,500 for tickets.
Well, I mean, it's Olivia Rodrigo. She's it right now. Of course, they're gonna gouge at the ass for that.
I didn't realize that paying an arm and a leg was actually feasible.
Have you not been to when was the last time you were at a concert?
I don't know. Maybe like 5-6 years ago. Maybe.
Dude, those are rookie. $3,500 is the standard, not the outlier.
I mean,
those are rookie prices, dude.
I mean, I went to Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden, and it wasn't
Yes, I understand, but for acts that don't cater to dinosaurs such as ourselves, ticket prices are immensely expensive. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I get it, but at the same time, $3,500.
He was willing to pay it, but then he was willing to piss, and then he was willing to piss it all away, and nobody goes to the show, and nobody's happy, and everybody's miserable. So you know what we need? We need the DJ Khaled gif. Congratulations, you played yourself.
I was gonna say get the crying Jordan meme.
Oh, you could do that too. Wait
a minute. I want to know what this father is doing for a living that he's willing to throw away $3,500 a ticket.
I mean, shit, I don't know.
That's what I want to know. And first of all, it's not one ticket. I think it was 3 tickets at $3,500 a piece.
$3,500 a piece?
Yes.
Wow. God, you're even dumber than I thought. You pissed away almost 10 grand worth of tickets?
More than 10 grand.
More than 10 grand worth of tickets, and you're not even going to go to the show?
10,500 to be exact.
I feel really bad for your daughter. I feel really, really, really bad for your daughter.
What's interesting though, it says while Wood, which is the name of the guy. Oh, I feel bad. That's his last name. While Wood went on to point out, no pun intended, that the venue no longer requires proof of a negative COVID-19 test or vaccinations. Artists can, of course, make their own requirements for the safety of themselves. Now, that is a little bit controversial, though.
What do you mean?
So if the venue says that as long as you have a negative test, but that the artist decides they want their own rules,
Well, the artists, they're the ones performing, so they can make the rules.
I mean, I get it, but it is a little bit of a here and there issue. Just saying.
Again, but if Olivia Rodrigo would really prefer that her concert venue does not turn into a super spreader event,
Well,
I really can't blame her for that.
that I agree with. And apparently, where the concert took place in Arizona has increased 84% in cases in the past 2 weeks.
I mean, shit. If I was her, I'd be instituting a vaccine mandate. I'd be mandating 4th shots for everybody who shows up, and masks, and 95s. But then again, of course, I'm a hermit, so I never go anywhere. So what does it matter?
Well, you work remotely. You go somewhere once a month, right?
Once or twice a month, but still,
Okay.
I'm not that lazy. I'm not a monster.
No. I meant you're full time, but you only have to go to the office.
Yes, I know, but it's not about me. It's about her.
Right. No, I get that. I'm just saying I wouldn't spend $3,500 period on anything.
I don't know if I actually own anything that's worth $3,500.
Except a car, but that's a whole different issue. You kind of need that. You kind of need that to get around. If you didn't have cars, oy.
Moving on.
All right, one last story, and I saved the funny story for last since we're in New York. Let's talk about New York says goodbye to the last public payphone.
So they started removing public payphones. Now, for those of you who are under the age of 20, cell phones didn't exist at one point in history.
I remember that.
And you actually have to dial numbers on a phone. Now, buttons were little plastic knobs you had to press, or they were metal. That's how you knew they were really fancy, when the buttons you had to push were steel. So you had to actually dial in numbers with your fingers to have to call somebody.
You sure you weren't around? Wait a minute. You sure you weren't around when the rotary existed?
Well, actually, yeah, we do have an old rotary phone in my house. Doesn't work, but still,
that doesn't surprise me.
Makes for a fine prop. But you actually had to pay quarters. People actually had to have pocket change, and that apparently is a foreign concept to some young people.
Well, wait a minute. Most people have credit cards now. They don't walk around with cash anymore.
So they started phasing that out in 2010. And this past week, the last remaining public payphone was in Times Square, which they removed to some fanfare. Now this
there were people standing there like making it an event.
Now I really didn't pay attention that much to payphones when I was, again, in the 90s. I mean, my father always tells me, it's like, you couldn't go 10 feet without running into some payphone or a line around the block. Or
you want me to make you feel really old? You want me to make you feel really old? Because I remember doing this when I was in middle school. The collect call.
Oh God!
This is a collect call. Press this number for this.
Do you accept the charges?
Yes.
No, I don't know who that person is. Beep.
That's always the best one. When
answering machines too.
God, that's like the jokes in some of the sitcoms where someone's calling from jail and they call with a collect call. This is a collect call from such and such. Click, not answering that. No.
But now you see him. But now you'll see a movie set in New York City with a payphone, and now all of a sudden it becomes a period piece.
It almost doesn't make sense anymore.
It almost doesn't make sense anymore, and it's like, yes, I understand. Yes, cell phones are a little bit are a lot easier. Believe me, but there was a certain kind of charm to, phone booths because, Superman, Clark Kent couldn't change into a Superman costume without one.
I knew you were going to go.
They always kind of lightly smelled the pee for some reason, which means somebody was using it. Some disgusting bastard was using it as a toilet.
I think the payphones were better in London than they were here.
Those are telephone boxes. If you're Doctor Who fans, of course you'll know what that is.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's just time marches forward, and I don't think I'm ready to be considered an old. I mean, I've always had the music taste of a 50-year-old, but you know what?
Me too.
To actually have caught up to that kind of fucks with my head, because there's going to be an entire generations of kids born in our lifetimes that have no idea what a fucking phone book is.
No, my favorite is like that. Everyone's going to grow up in the social media era now because that's how it is. Now it's we grew up before the social media era. We grew up before cell phones. God, I feel old.
MySpace was a thing when I was in high school. So actually, it was in middle school. As a matter of fact.
Wait, you mean the Predator Network?
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I remember I first joined Facebook. I think it was like 2008, and I was checking out colleges then. Yep, I joined in 2008.
Wait, did you?
I have photos on my Facebook page that are that old. I could show it to you right now.
Do you remember?
I'm not going to, but I will.
Yeah, no one needs to see that. But I think it was called the Facebook. That's how old it was.
Yes, it was.
I mean, if you saw the movie The Social Network, you really got to see really well. Not that they kind of over accentuate in Hollywood that story up a little bit.
But kids are going to be better at navigating this stuff than we will. I mean, you're in your late 20s. I'm 31, so it's like, we can. I feel like. Look, you can call me a dinosaur all you want, but you know what? I'm gonna stop caring because you know what? When you get old, nobody asks you your opinion. There's something freeing about that. When you become a certain age, people stop giving a shit what you think. And you know what? Again, nobody cares. You don't have to care. Nobody else has to care. So you know what? There's something kind of liberating about aging.
Is there? I didn't realize there was.
When you hit 30, when your 30th birthday rolls around, I'm gonna laugh at you so fucking hard.
You mean next February?
Because again, I'm the one who always gets shit from you and my other co-host. But you know what? It's gonna happen to you because that's the thing about time, Mr. Morgasen.
What?
It's a continuum. It marches forward.
God, you're reminding me of what's the name of the movie with Back to the Future. Reminding me of Back to the Future.
It's a continuum. You will get old too. You will get old, and let's be old together.
Wow, that sounds kind of creepy now that you say it that way.
Let's be old together. Let's sit on a park bench, eat some Werther's Originals, and yell at young people. Let's feed the ducks.
You're gonna go feed them bread?
Let's feed the ducks. Let's walk with our walking canes and walkers and just feed the ducks.
As long as we don't get in trouble for actually feeding the animals in public.
I get to wear my little cabbie hat. I get to wear my pants up to here. I mean, there are advantages. At least you don't have to chew anymore. Chewing's for suckers.
Ugh, that just sounds disgusting. You know what?
Yeah. So
you want to do one more story, or are we out of time?
Yeah, I think we're pretty much out of time this week. But yeah, so that will do it for.
By the way, we didn't get to you actually pulled an NFT story. We didn't actually do it.
I did actually pull an NFT story, but you know what? I'm not going to add insult to injury by laughing at it. I'm just going to laugh at it right now, like so. All
right. Well, he's laughing. Make sure you follow the show on social media, on Twitter, at Beyond the Bench One, on Facebook, same thing, Beyond the Bench One, Instagram as well. And on TikTok, we don't have a show for this.
We don't have a page for it yet, but
an individual page, right? Oh God, I'm losing my mind right now. Individual page, but we have a network page at ETB Network for TikTok as well. So make sure you go follow us on there. Yes, we're not old Kaisers anymore. We're on TikTok.
Geezers,
Kaisers, whatever. I'm thinking food.
Geezer and Kaiser are two different things.
I'm thinking food. What do you want from me?
Yeah, a bunch of geezers on a sandwich roll.
Exactly. And make sure you follow us on the ETB Network as well at ETB Network. So make sure you go check us out. Like we said, I think this was episode 32, right?
Yes. In fact, as we go into the summer months, we are going to have a little bit of a schedule shift in terms of these shows that we'll be offering, but we will get into that in more detail on other parts of this network. So make sure you like and subscribe.
Wait, was I not made aware of that?
Well, of course you know that.
Oh, wait, you're talking about other shows.
Yes!
Not this one. Oh, I think you're talking about this one. Okay.
You do co-run this network with me, right?
I thought you were talking about this show.
Are you sure this is not you've not somehow been cloned and then replaced like Invasion of the Body Snatchers? I am talking to the same Nick Morgasen, right?
Yes, I thought you meant this show. This show is staying in its.
No, not this one. Oh God, my co-host does not even know what show he's on.
Yes, when you're going beyond common sense, like this show is called, going beyond the bench, then
Precisely. So make sure that you like and subscribe to keep abreast of everything that we are up to, all of our shenanigans. You'll be able to see it. But for Nick Morgasen, I am Nick Fodera, and I will say to you, good night, everyone. See you back on the bench.
good night, everyone. We'll see you next week.